This is Donna with More Than a Review, and we are here with Linda and Linda.
Yay.
I'm not going to do a Daryl and Daryl joke. No, I was kidding. And I am thrilled. We're going to talk about personalities, and for those of you who know me, know I've always been fascinated by that. I had one of those life-changing experiences when I realized what my personality was and what some of my previous bosses had been, and had I understood that, I would not have taken it so personally, because you think it's about you and
Right,
not it's their
exactly.
personality. So fascinated to share this. I'll let you ladies tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about the book, and then I'll ask some questions kind of related to it.
Beautiful.
So,
Great.
Linda, I'll let you go first. No.
All right. For me, it was many, many years ago, I discovered the world of writing and speaking. And I'd always wanted to be a writer, but I was very discouraged by a college professor. And I quit writing for about 15 years. And had I known what I know now about my personality, it might have turned out differently. But she really discouraged me. And then I finally took up writing again and began to write, as my children would say, back in the 1900s. And so that was kind of my beginning. My children were still small, so I started out writing articles mostly because it was quick. I mean, you could put them down for a nap and get at least half of your article done. And so that was really good for me. But as I began to write and have things published, articles, and then I started doing books, and people were like, "You've got to speak." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, I didn't sign up for that part of this." But I learned that there was an organization coming near me, and I've never been anywhere like this before, and I went to try to learn to speak. And so at that conference, there was a teeny tiny segment of that was personalities. And of course, I'm sitting there thinking, why are they taking time teaching me about personalities? I want to learn how to speak so I can get this book marketed. I mean, it was all about that for me. And when they started teaching us and enlightening us on the personalities, it was life-changing. And so for me, that was really the beginning of what we're doing now, which was many, many years ago. I've used it in many, many ways, but the Lord has just really opened doors for us to use it with our new linked personality system. And I believe it's going to be really challenging and life-changing for many people.
Absolutely. And Linda and I actually met through that same industry and with the organization that she's mentioning, and I came to participate at that organization when they came to my church in San Antonio. And I'd been speaking for years. I had a radio broadcasting show, so I'd been in radio for many years. And it was, you need to come and you need to find out about this and this. And so I'm sitting at the back of the room and I'm going, okay, what is it that I need to learn? And they're all talking personalities. And I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And everyone they would laugh because of this personality, and they would this because of this. And initially I was like, okay, so are they labeling people? What are they doing with people? And who really cares about that? And then I discovered through the time at that particular conference in my hometown, I went to Glorieta, and I learned a lot more about it at the Glorieta Christian Writers Conference, and finding out more about the organization and Florence Littauer and just the class seminars. And in that, I started discovering a lot more about who I was. And I didn't realize that walking in the room, I could intimidate people. I was like, well, how can I intimidate people? That makes no sense to me. People aren't getting to know me. But it was like, well, it's because of your personality. It's because of this. And so I'm married to my wonderful husband, Sam. We have 4 adult children. We have 12 grandchildren. And so I discovered learning about my personality helped me with his personality. And now I work with parents. So I'm a life coach, and I work with professional women. I work with parents. And that's one of the first things that I do is we must discover, or help you discover, your personality. And Linda and I coming together, and what's a fun thing is we have the same first name, the same middle initial, and the same last initial. So we're the 2 Lindas in personalities. But coming together with Linda and saying, we need to do something with this, but I need it to be quick because I work with busy people. And that's kind of where we said, we have this background, we have this credentialing, we know this is what we've been teaching for years and years and years, And the opportunity started for us, so it's been great so far.
So talk to us about like why you see personality matter.
Personality matters because relationships matter.
There it is.
And I mean, that's really the simple bottom line of it. And when I attended that little 10-minute session, when I got home, it was just amazing because I walked in the door and immediately one of my children said something to me that generally would create a reaction. And I looked at her and I said, guess what? That's not going to work anymore. I know why you do that, and I'm not going to play the game. And so that was just life-changing for me. Also, it freed me up to be me because I am very much what we call an organizer. People use other words like melancholy, purposeful, whatever. But I'm more of a serious type, and part of that is being a perfectionist. Well, now what was happening that I didn't realize was I was a perfectionist. I was imposing that on my children, my husband, my family, my friends, and we were all miserable. And when I learned that God really made me to be a perfectionist, this is how I am, but there's nobody perfect in this world. And so I'm going to cut myself a little slack as well as everybody around me. So in that respect, for me, it was life-changing, and I think it can do the same thing for everybody else. If they just know how to understand the strengths, the weaknesses, the interaction. How do I react to my friend who's a really, really strong mobilizer, and here I am, a really, really strong organizer, which means we're pretty opposite in a lot of ways. We do have some similarities, but the differences in our personalities, the two of us, is pretty great. But because we can understand the personalities, and a little bit of knowledge of the personalities goes a long way. This is why we did the quick guide, because everybody's busy.
Oh yeah, I didn't even hold up the book.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we've got the quick guide. It's called Linked, and the subtitle is Maximizing. I can't say it. What'd you say?
Maximizing life connections, one link at a time, and it's the linked quick guide to personalities, which is what makes it different.
Yes.
And if I can kind of dovetail in here with Linda, is for myself, as I mentioned before, just that my personal posturing caused people to step back. And I learned that, oh, well, if I wear clothes that's fun, that's soft, people come up and now I'm becoming invitational. My personality, and I have a blend. My dominant is the mobilizer, but I'm also blended with the socializer. And so the socializer likes to have fun, likes to do all of this, right? The mobilizer is the get her done one. And when I look at Linda and myself, well, Linda is the organizer, get it done right, and but also keep everything peaceful. And so you have the peaceful, so she's almost a double introvert, I'm a double extrovert, and so her response to stuff is it's slow, not because of any mental issues, but because she processes entirely different than I do. And I process up in the air, and I'm doing stuff like this, going over here, and she's getting tired just looking at me, and I go, just let me settle. I'll get through this, I'll get over here, and I'll settle. But we had to learn that about each other, and we've studied it for years. But like she said, with the quick guide, we've placed it in easy read, layman terms. They go, oh, I'm that one, and I can do what? And yes, if you're speaking with this personality and you're this, consider this. And so and this is a first in a series of 10.
Oh, that is great.
So we're real excited.
That is. So let's make sure before we close, I'd like for you to talk about what's coming then. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So I noticed in both your profiles you talk about adapting since and even how you enter a room. I love that. So any other tips for people, like once they learn, or examples of when someone's learned their personality and kind of just small changes that have made them maybe either more approachable or even the opposite? Maybe you don't command respect when you walk in and you want to. So
I think that's a good, I know that when I have the opportunity with my coaching, and I work with parents and I work with women, professional women, and how can I be more confident in what I do? And if they have a personality that maybe is what we call the stabilizer personality, that's a little more shy and calm, and for me, I go, understand that what you have to say is very important, and lift your head up, be proud of who you were created to be, and focus on your strengths. I think that's one of the things that we do well with the book is we really intensify the positive aspects of the personalities.
Yeah, a lot of the materials that we've read along the years, yes, they accentuated the strengths, but a lot of it was about the negatives. You know, well, you're a perfectionist. You've got to figure out how to do this, do that. Or you've got to let this go or let that go. And yes, that is part of it. And we want to help people learn how to operate in their strengths as opposed to their weaknesses. And they do have to know what those weaknesses are. But I don't think we want to dwell on that. And the main thing, I think, is the relationship change that can be made, but also the internal change to the individual, because where she and I would walk in a room and she's immediately in the middle of the room hugging everybody there, I'm kind of slinking around the corner finding me a quiet place where I don't really have to interact with anybody. It's not that I don't want to interact with you, but not in a group. I want to find one safe person who I can have a deep conversation with, and I don't have to do all this hugging and all that
stuff.
All that stuff.
All that stuff you've done. You guys.
Yeah, she does. I'll let her handle all that part of it.
Now, we even created we have our little bracelets, and these are,
But
what are
ours
you?
are such different colors.
We are very different colors, but we can wear similar colors, But I think too with the how is it helping people, and how can it quickly help people, because it is a quick guide. It gives someone a fast resource. We've gotten great reviews. We actually just won the first place nonfiction award, so that was Golden Scrolls, and so that was amazing for us.
So she's saying that very quietly. So they won an award yesterday
Yes,
here in Nashville for the nonfiction category. So don't let her just act like that was.
That can even get me excited.
Yeah.
And it did. Her face
very
was
big deal.
the epitome of it. She's in front of me, and I'm behind her, and I hear them saying our names, and I'm going, what? And she turns around ever so slightly and goes, like this, and then I went, what? So, but
That's
it's
a tough category. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a huge accomplishment.
well, we're excited.
Yeah.
Definitely. But
I
think,
didn't mean to take you off track.
No,
No, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
And to piggyback on what she was saying, though, I think this little bit of information here, when they recognize who they are and who their family is, who their friends are, what, the people they interact with, then if I know your weakness is perfectionism, and I'm kind of harping on that just because I brought it up and that's one of my weaknesses, then you can encourage me to, okay, that looks really good. If you sit there and change words around another 4 weeks, it's probably not going to be any stronger. Push the send button and you're fine. So if you know what the weaknesses are, and some of them are even maybe less noticeable than perfectionism, but if you know them through some of the things that we've done in the book, you're able to encourage them. For instance, if you know one of your grandchildren is a real stabilizer, they don't like conflict, and you look out there and you see all the grandchildren are just in the middle of this chaotic time, then you're able to go over and pull the one aside that's a stabilizer, put your arms around him and say, I really need some help over here setting the table, or would you like me to go read you a book in the hammock, or something that you understand that this is making them crazy. They may be only 3 years old, but you understand that inside they're crazy and this is not good for them. And so you can just draw them out of that and pull them aside. And the same way works for all the weaknesses of all 4 of them. If you see that's happening in a group, we can then you have the knowledge to go and just kind of draw that person, whether it's a committee meeting or whether it's your grandchildren playing or something in between.
It doesn't matter what age, it doesn't matter what setting. This is for business, this is for personal, this is for, we were created to have relationships, and that's one of the key things with us, is relationships have power today, and we have dissolving relationships. So utilizing the quick guide, and you had mentioned to make sure that we mention what's coming up.
Yeah.
And so the next one that's coming up out actually within the next few weeks is linked for educators. It's specific for educators and maximizing classroom connections. And then the one after that is going to be linked for parents, quick guide to personalities. And we're finding people are so excited because they don't have to read a book that's this big.
Yes.
They can have something that's specific to them, and it's answering questions and giving them how-tos. And that's, I don't want to say simple to use, but if you are intentional and you want your relationships to soar, this is a very, very easy way to get that to happen.
That is, I think about the impact you can make by impacting the teachers and how they react to the children's and their different personalities. That's
Well,
amazing.
most teachers probably don't get their list for the next year and go, well, that's probably a socializer personality. And they don't even think about the personalities. And yet, when you get them in the classroom, or if you've got a mobilizer teacher and a mobilizer student, what's going to happen? Because they both want to be in charge.
Yeah.
They want it to be my way or the
So,
highway.
You know,
Yeah.
if we can just help to maybe smooth over some of these kind of situations. And in the educator book, we do give examples of each personality teacher and how they might react or act with their students of different personalities. So we're making an effort to really help them understand specific to their occupation. And you're right, it is so important for teachers to maximize, because they're changing lives. They're people, most people, if you ask who had the most influence over their life, probably most of them would be teachers, or a lot of them, other than their parents. So if they can do that even more effectively, how exciting. You know, what a great thing.
We even help them in interacting with the parents of their students.
Oh,
So
yeah.
most of the time that
Maybe
happens
one
when
for
discipline
sports.
comes in. Yeah, and we do. We actually, we have one of our endorsers is a former football coach, and he goes, "This needs to be for every sport team." And so, yes.
Yeah, that is great. Yes, because I think the teacher has all good intentions, but there's so many kids and they are all acting totally different, and you'll see one that you're going to conflict with. So I was going to ask, what style do you see the most often?
Sometimes it even depends on what kind of group we're in, because likes attract sometimes, and people that like to be together, or if you're in a study of some sort and we come into that group, sometimes there are a lot of them that are all the same. Other times you get it equal all across the board because people are all different. And then sometimes you get people, well, I'm a little bit of all of that. Well, some people can be that way.
Yeah.
This is not an absolute system. We respond to outside influences. We have learned behavior.
That's right.
There are all kind of things that enter into that. But I'm not really answering your question, but I think it does depend on those things. I don't know that we can actually say they're more of one kind in the world.
Right. I think now if you go into an industry specific and say you go in, we're here in Nashville, right? So we have a lot of recording artists, and so everyone can assume, and I think there's more understanding of the personality. They go, oh, well, that's an entertainer. Oh, well, they must be a socializer. They must be
That's
this.
what I would think.
But a lot of times they're not. They're very introvert. You have your organizer personality is the one who is very musical, but while they're performing, they're on. But they can be so drained, and they need to step back and they have to rest. But everyone's like, oh, this is great. Oh, they're just all of this. And then you have the socializer personality, which is the fun personality. You find a lot of those, if they are placed where they should be placed in organizations, that's going to be the first person that you meet. That's going to be the one who represents the energy of the company. That's going to be the one that comes out and goes, oh, it's great to have you here. They're charismatic. They're wonderful, da-da-da-da-da. You're going to find most of the secretarial staff, the ones that are kind of I say driver, but not using that necessarily mobilizer personality, but it's going to be the organizer and the stabilizer, the one who wants calm in the office, the one who says, no, you can't go in to see Mr. So-and-so. And it's the organizer who is the one who is not in competition with the boss, but the one who says, this is done correctly. And this is done. So if you look at that, those that perform the best or perform well in different aspects. I mean, having a socializer as a brain surgeon would be a little scary for me. But you can have a mobilizer, organizer, and you're like going, wow, this is great. I mean, it'd be wonderful to go into a doctor's office or something. Hi, do you have a moment to take this 26 question? Just want to check with you. You know, who knows? We could do that. A simplified little quick test that you can hand to people that are going to be a major part of your life.
Yeah. So a couple questions that I wanted to ask kind of in relation to that. So if I wanted to know like what my husband was, or let me say, because that'd be probably too easy, like your new boss or something like that. So without having them take the quiz,
Right.
are there clues that kind of help you get their personality?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. I think anytime you work with somebody, and if you have a little bit of this knowledge of personalities, I think you can very quickly assess what they are. Do they like things in order? Are they the first ones when someone comes to the door? Does the boss immediately jump up and run over to greet him, or does he just stand quietly behind the desk and stick out his hand? You know, there are there's body language.
Body language.
There's what is he requiring of you? Does he come to you and ask you, I need this and I need this time, this time, this time? How does he present his material for you to work on?
And how do they dress?
Exactly.
You have the socializers. Socializer is going to be the one that's very colorful, very out there, and it doesn't matter male, female, because you have a gentleman that walks in the office. He's got a bow tie with polka dots and all of this, and he's coming through, and everyone's, hey John, everyone knows him, never met a stranger. Then you realize, oh, that's a socializer personality. So they like to have fun. So if I'm going to interview with them, I want to make sure that they know that I have some fun in me. If you have the one who is an organizer and they are about the business, about making sure that everything is right, here is what we, this is what we, the vision statement for our company. It's important for you to know the details of our company. Well, that's a detail-oriented person, so you want to bring back details to them. If you have someone who is more the mobilizer, where they're the one, they enter a room and you feel them coming. And when they walk, it's kind of like what I would say, I would walk into the room and everyone goes, well, that's a person who's the boss or something, and I may not, I may be an attendee. But if you perceive someone as being that strong personality, don't carry on long conversations of stories and this, and don't talk a lot with your hands, because they want bullet points. Just give me what I need to know. If I want something, I'll go read a book, which I won't, but give me this. If you have you walk in and you have the very calm, they stay back, like what Linda said, they stay behind the desk. They're assessing you. They're not wearing bright colors. They're not, but they're nicely dressed. And if they're quiet, they're wanting to hear from you. A lot of the times, even if it's a stabilizer personality, when they're in that position, because a stabilizer is a chameleon, they can be the mobilizer, they can have fun, they can have things organized. Linda is a organizer stabilizer, so she has both of that. And with that, they can seem to be a socializer because they're around people, they like to be around people. What you find out later is if they do retreat and move away, they come, they do what they have to do, and you see them back away, pretty much not a socializer. Socializer stays till the lights go out and people say, it's really time for you to leave. But I have one more story.
Last person at the party.
Last person at the party.
Oh my goodness. So in closing, give us just one more tip, I guess, on what we would do. And tell us where it's at. So how can they get to the information and the website?
They can find the information at linkedpersonalities.com. We have a Facebook page. We have a Facebook group. They can contact us. I have a website. Linda has a website. Mine is lindagilden.com. Hers is livepowerfullynow.com.
Or .org. Livepowerfullynow.org.
I missed it again.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
See, I'm not a perfectionist, really. But I think one of the things in closing, when thinking about personalities, St. Paul says in Romans, if at all possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. Guess what? Most people leave out that middle phrase. It's not up to me. That person should do this. Or I can't get along with him or her because
It's their fault.
Exactly. So I think if we bring that phrase forward a little bit and realize that it does in part depend on you.
does.
I can decide if I want to interact with someone. I can decide if I want to be her friend, because we're not alike.
Yeah.
And so we've got to make choices, and I think it does depend on us. And so that is, to me, is a real big value of having our quick guide to personalities, because you can make that happen pretty quickly with a quick guide.
Yeah. Well, and I think about just small changes you mentioned that made a huge difference, you
And they
know?
did.
And that's the thing, doesn't have to be something where you have to overhaul your personality, you know?
No.
It's little tweaks for whichever environment you're gonna be in.
Sure.
And it's not you're changing who your core is, you're trying to be relatable.
Well, you're understanding
Yeah.
who your core is.
Yeah.
You're understanding, that's why I do what I do. Okay, this is who I am. So, and when I get that, when the light comes on, I'm okay. You know, and many people that are out there, more than likely, or I find it to be a lot when I work with parents and discover their children's personalities, and they go, this whole time I've been trying to shut my child down because they're not like me, and I want them to be like me. And that's when you're
very
like going, what we want to do is lift up everyone's faces around us, and if we can lift up their faces based on who they really are, then now they walk higher, and now they go, I'm okay with who I am. And that's what we want them to do.
That is a great way to close. Thank you guys
Yes.
so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
I do. I feel it's very important, and I do think just the smallest changes, and I would say for people who have families and teams, I think it gives you a non-emotional way to talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
Because I was not the person who would come into the office and say, good morning, how was your weekend? And I literally even would pick up the phone and say, blah, 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 and then I'm like, good morning, you know, and then I would remember, because after we had a conversation about it, you just start understanding what people need, and then they
Right.
understood why it just wasn't intentional, you know, easy for me, or just
Perfect.
So, but thank you guys so much for watching, and we will post all the links to both their websites and their social media and the book on our blog, and give us about a couple weeks for us to get all that out there. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.